Hey, you are looking live at just two people who have nothing to do on a Tuesday night. I'm Abe, and this is my cohort, Marty. I almost said Dan. Jesus. Dan is still on assignment.
Dan is still on assignment, feeding times, and this is the smallest round table we'll ever sit in.
Can we even call it a round table at all? I mean, it's point to point. That's a line. That's a line table, right?
We're sitting at the diner, basically.
Oh, man. So, yeah, we are going to be talking about some stuff, and then we're going to get to the Patriots Day roundtable. And the big question I have going into the Patriots Day is the spelling of it. I'm definitely looking into figuring that out. Where does the apostrophe go? Is there an apostrophe? Big questions we're going to ask tonight.
I think there was.
Yeah, but Mike, we'll get to that.
All right.
Dan is still on assignment. The chat is clamoring already for Dan. So I guess, yeah. We're chopped liver. You there? I'm getting a lot of clicks on your end.
I'm sorry. Good?
Yeah, you're fine. Just checking. So, let's bore the shit out of these people that watch us. Who do you like for the Super Bowl, Marty?
I'm actually going after, sadly, your Kansas City Chiefs lost this weekend.
Ooh, embarrassingly. They lost embarrassingly.
I mean, it's hard to lose when you score 2 touchdowns.
And don't allow any.
But yeah, but I'm still going, even though I hate them, I'm going New England.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. I don't see how New England doesn't win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, it's hard to say, because even as good as Green Bay is too, they usually run out of steam at some point. I think this is that time, because you see, even when they won the game against Cowboys, they took everything, of course.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers is the greatest, but like every play, it looked like someone was getting up limping, someone was coming off. So Atlanta beat Seattle pretty easily, and their team fairly rested and at home. And I think this might be Matt Ryan's year finally to lose in the Super Bowl.
I'm with you. I think it is a New England-Atlanta Super Bowl, and New England takes it. It's been chalk. It's been chalk all playoffs. For those of you at home, chalk is the favorite in betting terms. The chalk just keeps winning.
Green Bay, even though Cowboys were the number 1 seed, people thought Green Bay was still capable of winning. And then I'm hoping it'd be fun. Everyone's hoping. NFL's got to be dying for a Patriots-Packers Super Bowl.
Yes, they are.
If you get like an Atlanta-Pittsburgh, I think that'd just be great for.
Oh yeah, I think we bored him enough. Now it's time for you to bore me. You were laying some Star Wars stuff on me earlier about CGI characters and whatnot.
Yeah, well, it came out, of course, after the Carrie Fisher's death, and now I guess it's still not even a month ago. But because we can't not think about the future anymore, we can't live in the moment anymore. Everyone was already speculating about Episode 9. Would they use a CGI character? There was a false report that it turned out eventually it was a false report that Lucasfilm was already talking to the Carrie Fisher estate about getting the rights for that. And then finally, Star Wars, Lucasfilm almost never responds to a rumor. But they actually came out just to kind of shut everybody up and said, we are not even thinking about that yet. We are not. And they actually did, they said flatly that they don't plan to use a CGI character in Episode 9 or any future films for Princess Leia. Now, does that mean they're never going to do it? We already just saw them do it in Rogue One. That's what kind of fueled some of the talk early on. Saying they don't plan to do it doesn't mean they're never going to do it, or that. There's no script yet, so of course it's not planned yet. But I think it was a positive sign, because I don't want to see a CGI Princess Leia in this. I didn't like even seeing the CGI Tarkin in Rogue One, and that was expected, and he's that guy's been dead 30 years, and it was still weird.
That was very weird. Yeah.
So of course you're not a huge Star Wars fan like I am, but if you even to see a CGI character in a major role like that, I just can't see how it would have an effect on anybody.
No, I think it brings way too much baggage. It's a good idea just to kill Leia off, maybe in the crawl, and just call it a day.
Episode 9 is still 2 or 3 years away. Yeah. Actually, it's not written. She did wrap Episode 8, and it actually has a lot to do with where we leave Episode 8. If we leave Episode 8 and she hasn't even seen Luke yet, or she hasn't had any kind of scenes with Kylo Ren yet, it's going to be weird to leave that hanging, I guess. But I think it'd still be so much weirder if you said, all right, this is the new Princess Leia, and we're only going to see, and then even if Carrie Fisher was still alive, I think she would have died Episode 9 either naturally or some other way. So to say, all right, we're going to bring in this new actor to play this beloved role,
Yeah.
just to kill it, just wouldn't even have the effect to do it anymore. So just
No.
my goal, my wish is to say, just like you actually said in the crawl, say Leia has been, killed, assassinated, whatever you want to do. Make it the movie somewhat about that, or just mention it, or just write the full story in a book that people can still have the same caring for. Because if you bring out a CGI character, it's just the technology's not there, and it's never really going to be so much there that you're gonna. As soon as she shows up, you can be like, oh, that's a CGI character.
It will be distracting. Yeah,
it's just not going to carry any weight.
Right. Kim is asking about CGI Dan. As soon as he's rendered, will he be hosting? Yes.
We're actually hologram Dan, Tupac style. He's just going to walk in behind one of us.
There you go. I like that. Hologram. What's your favorite male dong shown in film? Richard James wants to know.
Hey, Jesus. How we doing?
Yeah. I took Dirk Diggler because, it's appropriate for the movie we're doing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with that. It fits the topic. Even though that was fake, so it was sad.
I remember that was such a debate. That was such a debate when that Boogie Nights came out. Is it real? Is it fake? And I know Marky Mark was trying to perpetuate the rumor that it was real.
Yeah. But I mean, it was just such a stupid scene too at the end of the movie. Like, oh, I'm just gonna whip it out in front of the mirror. Like, all right.
Yeah. You don't do that, Marty? You don't stand in front of the mirror?
Not while saying I'm a star.
You're saying I'd fuck me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put a little chapstick on. I'd fuck me. All right. Well, you got his answer, Richard. I guess we're streaming a little bit ahead of the chat again. Let's see. We're talking Star Wars, and we were talking box office. Let's see. Let's pull this up here.
We usually pick Patriots Day because we expect it to be the #1 movie this weekend.
We did, yeah.
It was not even the top 5.
No. And yeah, let's look at box office because this amuses me no end. I wanted to talk box office for just a moment. Underworld 5 right now is the #1 grossing movie in 2017. I really love that. I love the fuck out of that.
Well, I guess it's making money overseas because we broke it down. It's got 45 of it, I think.
Yeah, here we go. We can get into it. There we go. It's got 46 foreign and 25 here. It's not a bad little haul for America,
Well, this has to have cost close to 100, right? I mean, this aren't cheap to make.
It couldn't have cost. What's the budget? It says here the budget is $35 million.
Okay.
See, I mean, the Underworld does what everybody claims they want to do. Is that they want the mid to low budget R-rated movies.
How many of these have they made so far?
This is number 5, I think, right?
And she's not getting a decent salary yet for these movies.
Well, I mean, she's doing okay, right? She's a producer too, isn't she?
She thinks she'd get more out of 35.
You think Kate can pull more than $35 million?
And if she got, I would hope she at least got 15 or so. Spent more than $20 million on making this.
Yeah, I'm sure she's paid adequately for this. Yeah, I find it fun. Let's take a look though. Let's go back to the year by year. We've got Rogue One, this year, 2016. Star Wars: Force Awakens, 2015. American Sniper, Catching Fire, Avengers. Now just go on down to 2005, we've got Revenge of the Sith. Aside from Attack of the Clones, it looks like if there's a Star Wars movie, it's the highest grossing movie of the year. Do you think that's going to be the case just for the rest of our lives?
At least for the next year. I mean, Episode 8, I can't imagine not being #1. Some people are thinking Justice League is any good, maybe, because it's coming out in November. Mm-hmm. And you have Guardians of the Galaxy, people are thinking can make as much money, but I still think Episode 8 will be that, of course. It's going to get interesting once you have if the Avatar movies ever come back.
Oh, yeah.
Those are supposed to be actually scheduled. It's been scheduled for 5 different times now, but it actually is scheduled for next year and around the same time as Han Solo would come out. And I think Avatar could beat Han Solo unless it's got really bad reviews or people. I mean, everything he comes out with makes the most money of all time, so it's hard. James Cameron's not going to be #1.
No, he's got quite a nose for what works, doesn't he?
But I mean, then you got Infinity Wars the next year. Well, I mean, those Avengers movies can't make much more money than they already do.
You think they're plateauing?
Not that they're plateauing, but how much? I mean, who else is going to go see them that's not seeing them? I mean, if you saw you saw Civil War, you're going to see, Infinity Wars, unless it's so good you've seen it 3 or 4 times. That's the one thing about Star Wars movies that the other ones don't have. Star Wars movies, the hardcore fans go and see it 3 or 4 times.
Huh.
Those other movies come out at times during the summer or spring where something else is coming out at least within a couple of weeks, so you're not going to go see the one movie, multiple times.
Interesting.
I'm looking at the funny thing about Sniper is it was such a surprise. It came out in January of 2014, and then it looked like people thought they had this kind of niche audience in this January, malaise time where they can pump out some of these American movies, as like the calm, and then they haven't really found this, repeated that, because last year was the big Ozzy movie, 13 Hours, I believe it was called. And that had like 10 other words to go with it. But
that's right. Yeah.
Like the Secret Soldiers of something.
There it is. The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi.
Yeah, that was always add more words to your title if you can.
Right.
And you see like that. They only made 52. That's a Michael Bay movie that he spends some money on to make those things. And then this year, Patriots Day came out pretty much the same time. It's not a war film, but it's it's in that vein of a kind of pro-America message created by Peter Berg, who's the new kind of pro-America director, and his cohort, Mark Wahlberg, who, they make everything together now.
Yeah.
Do
you see the side-by-side I've got pulled up right now?
They all kind of...
It's not that... I mean, it's below, obviously, but it's not as far below as I would have thought.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But again, I don't think Patriots Day cost much to make, so it'll get its budget back, but it's not the huge success. And then even they came out this year with, we were talking about Deepwater Horizon, another Peter Berg, Mark Wahlberg movie that came out just this year, another kind of based on a true story, retelling. And it got good reviews just like this one did, but it did not make its budget back, I'm not even sure. So these guys keep making movies, but I'm not sure how much longer they're going to keep giving them money to make these movies if they don't get it back.
That's interesting. Let's take a look. Let's just delve into it.
Yeah.
All right. So we have the Patriots Day, Deepwater Horizon. We'll pull this up in a different tab. That in a different tab. Oh, you're right. Didn't even
that big button, and didn't make anywhere close to that. But
worldwide.
All reviewed movies. But we'll get into it, I guess. Now, Peter Berg and Wahlberg are making these movies in a way that they're taking on these fairly recent tragedies,
right?
And there's 2 ways to tell any one of these stories, probably. I mean, you could have made a whole, and they probably will make a whole different kind of movie about Deepwater Horizon, about, corruption and, failures on the, corporate level. But he likes to make these survivor movies, basically, and focus on which are still, it's a story that's worth telling. I'm not going to say it's not. But he kind of just has a narrow cast in some of these films, and he's just focusing on Mark Wahlberg character, which was fine in Lone Survivor because he was, of course, the lone survivor.
Yeah,
and he's the only one that could tell the story. Even though I did watch that movie, and it's a little, with the action, it's a little over the top. These guys, I got, if it did happen this way, God bless them, but you're seeing guys just falling down mountains like it's Fast and Furious style. And they're kind of getting up and still moving along. They're breaking legs and stuff, but they're still kind of.
I don't mean to laugh, but yeah,
there's a little superhero-ness to it, and I understand it's a movie, but just weird. But then with the Patriots Day, and I guess we can start getting into it.
Yeah,
Mark Wahlberg is not a real person in this movie.
Now, is that
what was? I don't know if people know that going in. Yeah. It's been pretty much well said, but it's not clear from if you're just going in not knowing anything about it, just seeing the trailer and going to the movies and haven't read anything about it, you would think Mark Wahlberg's character is a real cop from Boston, and he's just a completely made up character, so they can just have some. This is done in based on true stories movies, but it's usually done where you're taking 2 or 3 different people and just making them the one for storytelling purposes. And this, they just turn Mark Wahlberg into super cop. And it takes away from what was a touching story about this tragedy that happened in Boston during the parades, but that was something that took me out of it, from the get, just from hearing about this movie. I walked in not thinking I like it at all because of that kind of stuff, and there were still problems I had with it, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and it's not as over the top as I expected from the trailers.
No, it really wasn't. I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one. It wasn't as bad as I thought it could be, and it wasn't anywhere near as good as I hoped. But it was a well-made movie. Just I can't really, and I know that some people in the audience I saw were kind of reacting a little emotionally to some things that happened. It didn't really hit me that hard. I'm sorry to say.
There was, the powerful scenes he had where he did a nice thing where he kind of cherry picked a couple of the people that were injured and a couple people involved in the story and kind of weaved in their backstories into the day. And then when you see the events, I think he shot the bombing scene very well, and it was pretty graphic. You see a lot of blood and a lot of blown off legs and stuff like that. So he shot that well, and he did a pretty good job of weaving in the real footage from the day and kind of seamlessly did that throughout the film in a way that worked. So I think it was emotional scenes like that. He had one guy who, lost a leg and he couldn't find his kid, and that was pretty touching. They focused on a young couple who both lost their legs and they couldn't find each other the whole time. But one thing it did kind of bother me, and it was right from the beginning, where did you notice how he focused on legs in the beginning of the movie to just a weird way? Like the camera would always pan to someone's legs, especially that couple as they were in bed. They panned legs as they're walking down the stairs. It focused on the legs. It's like, all right, we know what's going to happen. You don't really have. It's just
they were really foreshadowing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And even Mark Wahlberg's character, who again is completely made up, injures his leg in the first of the movie, and so I don't know what the point of that was. He just so you see him struggling with his own leg injury during the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're supposed to are we comparing that to what happens to other people? This is, you're talking about people who really lost their legs, and Mark Wahlberg, who, like you said, just made up a leg injury so he can have another obstacle to, be super.
Let's talk about that for just a second. Is Mark Wahlberg fictional so they could take creative license, or is he fictional because then you don't open a can of worms with lawsuits and licensing rights and all that? What do you think?
I don't trust that it's not him doing it because Mark Wahlberg wants to be the guy he said he is, who would have stopped 9/11 if he was on that plane. That's an actual quote from Mark Wahlberg. So because it's the famous story, he was supposed to be on the plane that went from Logan to the Trade Center, and years later he said, if I was on there, I would have done something.
Right.
You know what, asshole? Knowing that in my head when I first saw this movie, it's like, all right, so Mark Wahlberg's being the terrorist killer he always dreamed of being. That's just me putting it out there. It's not, of course that wasn't their, goal, I hope, but that's what it just tasted like to me. And this movie is getting good reviews for the most part, but the worst reviews are coming from Boston columnists who kind of found the same thing somewhat distasteful.
That's tough. It's tough because that's always the joke, isn't it? What's the time limit before you can make a movie about something? Whether it's Pearl Harbor or D-Day or 9/11, how long you're supposed to wait? Is 3 years? It's been 3 years. That's it, right?
Yeah, 3 or 4. I think it was 2000.
It's too soon, isn't it? Or no?
I wouldn't have thought it was too soon if they weren't going for the kind of hero vibe of it. To tell he so many things well in this movie, but just the hero stuff with Wahlberg, I think, was what threw most people off.
Yeah.
He spent more time with the terrorists than I thought he was going to.
Yeah, I was surprised about that too.
Yeah, because that's mostly made up because they haven't really. One of them is dead, and one of them didn't talk, I don't think, or can't talk, from what I believe. So a lot of that is just license. But they spent a lot of time with them on the run, a lot of time with them in the house watching what happened, and I wasn't expecting that because when they do that, actually, they take away from a lot of the Mark Wahlberg FBI kind of stuff that was the focus of the movie for the first hour or so, and we just went off on a journey with the Sarnev brothers for a while, and it was interesting stuff.
No, it was.
They play him off as he's kind of like the older brother is the militant guy, the younger kid's the stoner type. And they weren't shown as any kind of geniuses or anything.
Well, obviously they weren't. I mean, they could fuck with a pressure cooker. That's all they could do.
And then John Goodman plays a real police commissioner in this movie. He was good. Kevin Bacon played the actual FBI director.
Yeah.
And this is always the kind of media. I mean, the movie, trope you see. It's the FBI versus the cop.
The local law. Yeah.
Thing. And it's either if it's an FBI centric movie, the cops are the idiots, and if it's a cop based movie, the FBI are these guys that don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're coming into our town. What do they know? Type shit.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of straddled that line. Wahlberg kind of acts like who the fuck are you kind of guy at the beginning with Kevin Bacon. But the one thing I did notice, they treated the FBI guys, I don't know what statement they were trying to make here, or maybe this is all true, of course, but Kevin Bacon was shown as the kind of wanting to be political correct guy, didn't want to ruffle any feathers, didn't want to come out and defend Muslims right away. So I don't know if that was, a shot at Obama and liberals or what it might have been, but...
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's a shot at Obama or just kind of factually accurate. I mean, Obama says we've never been attacked by terrorists on American soil in his watch. So, I mean, yeah, come on.
I mean, foreign terrorists, I think is pretty much.
Yes, that's very Clinton-esque word parsing.
Words matter.
Yep.
Yeah, they kind of just the Boston cops were the guys wanting to get the pictures out of these guys so we can help them, and he kind of like his own kind of wimpily saying, "Oh, what if it's not true? They're going to sue us," kind of shit.
Right. Well, yeah, that was interesting. I was kind of wondering if they touch on like Reddit and 4chan when they grabbed the ball and went running with that and identified the wrong person.
Yeah, and actually, I think it was a whole story with Glenn Beck back in the day. Kind of fingered them, and they were on the cover of the Post. I remember.
Yeah.
Wound up suing Glenn Beck and getting a decent amount of money.
Right.
But they didn't mention that at all. That they were. It made it seem like they found these guys fairly quickly.
How long was it? I'm trying to remember. It wasn't that long, was it?
It was a couple of days.
Was it?
Until they actually, that the whole ending shootout.
At that, there was that boat and. Yeah.
But the one scene that was just really Mark Wahlberg looking almost like Rain Man, where it was the end of the day and Mark Wahlberg's all tired and he's getting into the tub to soak his bum knee because again he has a fake knee injury. But they call him back to the FBI center because he's got to walk the crime scene and tell you what a map could have told you. They have him walking through. Remember the scene? They have him walking through that fake crime scene, pointing out each store and where a camera would have been there. And they had to call him to do that because he's the guy who knew it. Like, no one else knew the store. Like, you're watching, you got cameras there. You know where the fucking stores are. So they have him kind of like walking up and like they're watching him as he walks up and down this fake thing, pointing out all the spots. And it's like, it was just completely unnecessary.
Yeah. But again, I thought it straddled the line pretty well. It never felt overly exploitive to me.
No, I don't
really didn't, and I was surprised by that because I thought that's where they're going to go.
I thought they were going there. The one thing, of course, 3 people died in the bombing.
Yeah,
2 of them were older. One of them was a child, and they didn't have the rights to say the kid's name during the film. But they kind of did a weird thing, and tragically, it's just a tragic thing where they couldn't leave the kid alone at the crime scene, and they couldn't move him yet. Because his parents were gone, or they didn't explain why they really couldn't move him evidence-wise. So they kept going back and forth every once in a while to this lone cop who was standing next to this covered body. And it's just, I don't know, it was, a bit much, especially knowing that the parents didn't want his name in there. I don't know.
Just looking through the chat, they're having their own conversation. They're off just going nuts. Yeah. Kim's asking why didn't they use Google Street View? So,
yeah, it was just it almost made it look like he was some kind of psychic, or they brought in a psychic, or a guy.
Okay, you're right. That part did feel a little cringe, just kind of like watching Psych or something. Yeah,
all right. Oh, what's next, Mark? What did you see then?
Yeah, what was some other part you were telling me that you were kind of? Oh, the interrogation.
Yeah, the interrogation scene, which you have to have, everyone has seen in the trailer, where it's the woman comes in to interrogate the terrorist's wife, and it's that line in the where she asks for her rights, and it's the big applause line. I saw it a bunch of times in trailers and in theaters, and then even when I watched in movies, she gave the woman asked for a lawyer because she has rights, and then the woman shoots back, "You ain't got shit."
You ain't got shit.
I can't imagine the real person said that. But that line got applause at some point. Sometimes it got laughter, and it's just kind of it makes me that makes you squirm.
Right. Not since Abraham Lincoln.
We want to, we all want to catch terrorists, but if she doesn't have rights, eventually they're going to make a way for you to not have rights. So
absolutely.
And it was a weird thing. They don't really explain it in the movie. It's this special unit that comes in to talk to the wife, and no one knows who they are, and everyone's like, who the hell are these guys? And they made a point in the film, it's over the radio with Mark Wahlberg, because he gets all the messages, that if you catch the wife, no Miranda. And they don't really explain it, and even the cops go like, what the fuck? What is that about? And then these four people come storming in, they go past John Goodman, they go past Kevin Bacon, and it's just this interrogation where, again, she has no right to a lawyer, and it was a condescending interrogation where she pretends to be a Muslim. It looked like to me, at least. I'm not sure.
Yeah, she was pretending.
Yeah,
not quite. She pretended better than Lindsay Lohan, but I mean, she was still pretending.
Yeah, and it was just a weird. That didn't add anything.
Gold. I'm throwing gold your way, and you're not reacting. Fine. Go. I'm sorry. Continue on.
It didn't add anything to the movie, if you ask me. And it was just that gung ho America scene that they wanted to put in, I guess.
Yeah.
Because explain it.
No, I mean, I felt like that was the every good cop in every good cop movie's on suspension. Cops bend the rules. Cops break the rules to get results. Because the rules are what hold you back from being a good cop. I felt like that was in there, and it did pulls for some other. I felt like the way it did the setup too in the beginning definitely felt like 70s disaster movie. We're gonna get little snippets of everybody's life right before they lead up to the airplane crash or to the earthquake or to the Independence Day. Independence Day did that,
and some of it worked. I mean, they had the Asian kid who actually. Some of them I had forgotten about. I forgot about that he was a kid who got carjacked. During at the movie, and I actually had forgotten about the MIT officer who got killed.
Oh yes.
Because and they kind of show him throughout. He just seems like a nice guy. They showed him a couple times. He's excited about going on a date with this girl, and then all of a sudden you see the two terrorists walk up to his car, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, it's this guy. And they shoot him, and it's rough. And that was one of the sadder moments of the film, and that's what kind of that was. And I think those real scenes were where this movie works, because that's actually happened. But when you mix it in with Mark Wahlberg hearing about it in the car and then running over there, that's when it gets fake. And I just don't think they needed him in this movie. It wouldn't have had the star power, of course, without him. You might not have been able to sell it as much without him, but. You just kept this as a real story. The real people did enough that you didn't need to kind of, add in this fake cop to be the voice of Boston, I guess.
No, I'm with you. I can see why they did it still, but it would be better if they...
So this gets done in movies. People, the Zero Dark 30, Jessica Chastain was like 4 people. Moneyball, Jonah Hill was like 3 people. But it's just...
No fat jokes on the show. Come on now.
That was too easy.
Yeah, it was. You set them up, I'll knock them down. It does work.
It makes the movie It makes the movie easier because it's easier to focus on the one character instead of 5. But there were so many other characters you were also focusing on in this movie.
Yeah.
So then shoehorn Mark Wahlberg just so he can give the, hope will always live on speech during, or whatever it was, love beats hate speech.
Love triumphs over evil all the time, right?
It just didn't. It wasn't. I just don't think it was necessary.
No, it probably wasn't. Is this the best? Recent historical dramas. We've got this. You saw the other one they collaborated on, right? The Lone Survivor. But you did not see Deepwater Horizon.
No, this was better than Lone Survivor.
It was better than Lone Survivor.
It's hard to compare to disaster movies, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a feel for it. What else Could we compare it to United 93? Did you see that?
No, I did see Sully.
Oh, yeah.
Count that as a tragedy.
How was that?
That was another thing where they just kind of added unnecessary drama to a movie. Whereas, like, they made the, a plane crashes. You have to have an investigation into why the hell it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And they made this thing seem like it was, a crucifixion of Sully, and made all this drama into it, where even the people who, the movie was about came out after and said, it was not that big a deal. We had to investigate it. We had to ask some questions of why it happened. It wasn't, a life, we weren't going to kill him. We weren't going to fire him or something. But that's how they kind of made it seem a movie, just so they can make a movie out of that. So, I mean, there's a lot of these movies where that's also the problem when you're making recent tragic stories. We remember what happened.
Right.
So, we can buy into, a Pearl Harbor story or World War II story, adding some things, because we're not going to remember.
You don't want to go right to Pearl Harbor first, right there. No, you don't. Yeah.
Better. You kind of fudge with history at that point because it's not fresh in mind. But when you're making a thing that happened, yesterday, that's why it's going to be harder to make these movies in the, digital age, because everything's on video, everything was seen on TV as it happened, so we're gonna know when something's wrong. That's
a good point. I never even thought about that. This stuff's already been committed to posterity.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go to YouTube and watch it, hypothetically, forever. And
that's why I didn't. Actually, it's not the same kind of thing. But the movie Ali, I just couldn't get into because I'd seen Muhammad Ali give all those speeches, and I'd seen him in those fights. So you're not going to Will Smith, as good as he is trying. He's not going to be as good as the real thing,
right?
And even you can tell when things, that didn't happen that way, and it's just. I guess we're just gonna have to turn that off at some point. But especially when you're doing tragedies, it's gonna be hard because we're gonna have a lot more tragedies. I feel coming forward, but
let's hope not. But that is interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that. The fuzzing of my memory.
Yeah, they've been doing almost rapid fire political movies too, especially with the last two elections.
Yeah,
HBO did movies the next year. It's all right, we just saw that. You can make up a few things, but people are gonna get out when it's everyone go on TV and say, it didn't happen that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that was this movie, Page Save the People in Boston were the ones who came out and said, we don't really enjoy you making shit up like this. Not that they made stuff up. Everything that happened, but to kind of, to shoo in a hero for no reason.
The way they framed it, yeah. And Mark Wahlberg loves Boston, he's doing it to represent Boston. Wasn't that one of the defenses he did? They didn't want somebody else to tell the story?
Well, they had to, and in the movie they had to shoo in at least 3 different times. You mess with the wrong fucking city.
Right.
Boston strong. And then they got to do when he was saying, you got to let the pictures out because you got to let Boston work for you. It was and then also when they were, they did the whole shootout when the first brother dies, and they're doing the shootout in the middle of the street basically, and it looks. I mean, I didn't remember it being that scary with the multiple. It looks like they threw 5 or 6 bombs out. I thought it was maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, I don't remember it being that intense in the news. Yeah,
I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that one, but you have the guys from Boston out of their house throwing bats at the cops, saying, "Here, kick their ass."
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that on TV either.
And then it's you don't want to fault the guys, but you have all these cops surrounding one car, and the car eventually gets away.
I don't know what to say on that.
It was funny, of course, but then that's when they, at that point, a scene in the movies where they talk about doing the martial law, which even when it happened, I was thinking, wow, we're really doing this to catch one guy in Boston? We're going to shut down a major city in this country
to catch one guy. Yeah.
And, they kind of just, they made it, they showed that it was the governor's call, and, but they didn't show much debate on the ramifications. And then they kind of just showed people, scared to leave their house to even go check, step out and have a cigarette or something. And then, it's not a great message to send to anybody that, greatest, one of the greatest cities in the country, and we're afraid to leave the house because of one guy.
Especially for a cigarette. You'll, if you're a smoker, you'll leave the house if there's a tornado outside. Yeah.
And, the cops are running up and down the streets, get in your house. It's like,
yeah.
Hey, I guess, he wasn't going to make a statement on any of these things, but to give it some debate, I think would have shown something. And it was actually not funny, of course, but they had this whole, manhunt. And I think they didn't even mention it, but I remember the real story. The guy, the kid never got much farther from where they, were, I think.
No.
I think, he was in a backyard, like not far from it all happened. So it's like he shut down this whole city. The guy was 2 blocks away. And I remember that did take a good day or so.
I think you're right, yeah.
Well, they found a second kid. And, they obviously they thought he might have had more bombs, and that was, a thing they kept stressing throughout the movie. That, they kept stressing that they were, the plan was they were going to go to New York and blow up Times Square. Whether or not that actually ever would have happened or was the plan or, what's going on, what they said. That was funny how they kind of throw in a scene where the 2 brothers are in the car with the Asian kid whose car they hijacked, and they threw in the whole idea that 9/11 was an inside job, which was a weird thing to throw in. I mean, I'm sure it happened. If the kid says it did, but if you get into the conspiracy theories of that, just those same people who believe in that are going to tell you that the Boston bombing was a false flag thing too. So
right, well, yeah. Once you start down that path, you're fucked. Yeah.
So to bring that up, and people think the same thing about this thing, and this movie, streams kind of propaganda to that kind of cause. So it's weird to bring that up in a movie where you have the same issue.
But yeah, I didn't feel like that. Yeah, thankfully they didn't go anywhere with that. So I didn't think it. And
throw that in.
Yeah. One thing I did want to bring up is, actually, when you do handheld a lot of the time in a movie, I'm always worried you're going to go full green grass and just, make sure that the audience notices how special your handheld work is. I thought this was actually a pretty well shot movie.
Yeah, and like I said, he kind of went from movie to, like the kid would walk into a store and you'd see him walk into a store, and then it would flash right to the surveillance footage.
Yeah.
Which was a good effect, I thought, and it didn't take away from the movie. And it was kind of like it was just an interesting thing to see, and he did that 3 or 4 times to pretty good success. But yeah, it wasn't there wasn't like a Michael Bay thing. I mean, the one fight scene was a little over the top with the bombs. I'm not sure, like I said, how many there were. And then we didn't mention J.K. Simmons plays the.
You wanted to bring that up, yeah.
Plays the sheriff. I guess he plays the kind of sheriff, I guess we'll call him, in the Watertown suburb, I guess, of Boston, where the actual shootout took place. And they show them throughout the movie, just kind of glimpses, and they're like, "Oh, are we getting involved in this thing? Oh, not yet. We're just gonna sit here, and if they need our support, they'll call," kind of thing. And J.K. Simmons is just kind of seen as this old West kind of sheriff type who's walking around with a cigarette and just kind of struts around town, and like the big shootout happens in there, Watertown. And his cops are all freaking out. They've never been in a gunfight like this with bombs or anything. And then Simmons just kind of shows up and waltzes around the house and it's like, "All right, I got this, guys," and just kind of takes him out with a handheld gun while they're shooting. Handgun. I'm sorry, I'm not a good guy, but handgun. While while his other guys are popping off, military grade rifles, and the other guy's got bombs, and he's just in a shootout with the other guy. And it's just like I said, maybe it happened that way. I can't say, but it was very kind of like, John Wayne type shit, where I'm just going to go take care of this guy's.
Very, very. No, I kind of liked him. I want to believe that guy's kicking ass somewhere.
Yeah, he's always good.
Yeah.
It was just funny, though.
It was
They showed him, like in the beginning of the movie, he's walking into his local Dunkin' Donuts, and he leaves the cigarette down on the step, and then gets his coffee, comes back, and it's right on the step, and he just keeps on about his day. It's like, okay.
That's the life, man. That's the life right there. Dunkin' Donuts and cigarettes. What else do you need in life? I can't think of anything.
What did you think at the end of the film, where it kind of just stops being a movie? I mean, they catch the other kid.
Oh.
The whole thing at the Red Sox game with David Ortiz, and of course Mark Wahlberg is there to shake David Ortiz's hand because, God forbid, we don't get a Red Sox reference in a fucking Boston movie.
They're intertwined, man.
And of course we had a 3-minute conversation at the beginning of the movie on how to properly say socks, because that's important.
Yes.
But then
You're talking about the very end of the movie
Yeah.
with the real people and everything.
It's kind of the movie ends. Not even they don't show credits yet or anything, but
Right.
they do David Ortiz thing, which he famously said, "This is our fucking city."
Yeah.
And it was it was a good moment.
Oh yeah.
And but then they just go straight into footage of the real people that this all happened to, and that was like 10 minutes, which
Gratuitous? Is that what you're saying?
gratuitous, but it was a weird way to end it because it's not this wasn't a documentary. This was a movie.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll see that like a lot of movies will do that where they'll show like as the credits roll, they'll show the picture of the actor next to the real person, like that kind of stuff, and give you you would typically get the epilogue type information, which is typical. But this just went full end and did interviews with the people and showed them in their life today. I don't think it was good or bad or different. I mean, it was just.
I don't know. I'm with you. It was too long, and it didn't really work for me. It didn't really work for me when they did it in Schindler's List.
Yeah,
it didn't work here. I like the epilogue. I like the credits. Just maybe side by side picture.
Showed every picture and just said what they did. I mean, all their stories were inspiring. Two of the couple that lost got got prosthetics, and one of them did the race a couple of years later. But it's always weird to have like you're watching a movie of the person, and then like just like that. All right, now this is the real person. He's also going to talk about what happened. So I was like, all right, I could have just watched a documentary, which would have been better probably.
Yeah, it probably would have been better. Yeah. Well, man.
So bringing here, of course, showcasing that Mark Wahlberg was not a real person because you showed everybody else was a real person, and there was no.
It really does underline that point, doesn't it?
There was no. And this is the Mark Wahlberg person. If I didn't know that if I went in not knowing, I would have left that scene, be like, well, what happened to,
Saunders? Was his name Saunders? Yeah.
So, like I said, it was. I didn't hate them. I went into the movie thinking, oh, this is going to be over the top type shit, but with Berg and Wahlberg. But I left. The parts were emotional. Were emotional. Some of the scenes at the hospitals and he shot it well. Mm-hmm. He treated it pretty fairly. It wasn't over the top that much, but just like I said, the interrogation scene that didn't move the plot forward and wasn't even explained, kind of was a misstep, and the weird focusing on the legs. This was in one of the more bad tastes, I think.
Too much foreshadowing, huh?
Yeah, it's like we know what happened.
Yeah. Oh man.
These people loved walking. Oh.
The score was nothing to write home about, as I recall either. The music was just kind of there.
His movies.
Yeah.
That kind of bland, like hopeful.
Well, that's movies nowadays anyway.
Like you go back and watch even like Friday Night Lights, which Berg did. It's that same kind of hopeful, dun dun, kind of just no word, just kind of like music, but no. It's just kind of like that hopeful montage type music that he always does. And I guess it was better not to throw in real music where like every time in the car I don't remember there being any kind of real music on. They didn't do any of that stuff. One of the brothers did plug in his iPod to the stolen car, and he was upset he couldn't do that.
That is always a nightmare when you can't when you're in a car you can't plug your phone into to listen to music. That is horrible. Being stuck listening to radio. Did you see Battleship?
I did see Battleship.
How was it?
It's pretty bad, and even in that film too, it's like a love letter to soldiers.
Yeah.
They actually show old Pearl Harbor guys actually in the movie because it's I'm not sure if it did happen at Pearl Harbor, this movie, but it was a bombing of the Navy or whatever.
Right. I didn't see it. So.
Yeah, it's aliens attacking the Navy, and they bring in the old boats that were there because I think this might be true. I don't think anyone in the chat would have seen it to correct me, but I think they have to bring out the old boats because they have the weaponry that the aliens can't hack or something.
Oh, it's too primitive.
And so they have to bring in the old Navy guys to actually run the things. And it's funny. It was actually on TV that day, and I caught the ending.
Funny.
And it's funny that he left it open for a sequel. That just was not going to come.
Just in case. Well, Transformers,
Well, Transformers makes money, though. That's why they keep making.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think they thought that they had a flop on their hands coming up. Let's see what else. I didn't. Hancock was okay. It wasn't as horrible as everybody said.
No, it was fine, but it was just
Yeah.
just weird. It was like they wanted that was their kind of anti superhero movie. And it didn't work.
No, it did not. It didn't work that well. What about Very Bad Things? Underrated. Very Bad Things is underrated.
Which one was that?
Very Bad Things. Apparently Peter Berg's first movie.
Is that the
The bachelor party that goes wrong.
thing? Okay, I think I did have seen that. There was wasn't there 2 movies that were like that? Came out like almost the same time.
I wonder if I'm thinking of the other one. This one had Jon Favreau in it.
Yeah, it was Jon Favreau.
Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, it was the stripper.
Yeah.
There in the woods thing. But I think I almost want to say there was 2 of those movies back in the 90s.
Showgirls.
Yeah, but I mean, I loved Friday Night Lights, which he did the movie and produced the TV show. Did you see Kingdom?
Yeah, I never did see The Kingdom.
That was actually pretty good. I guess that might have been the start of his kind of soldier love letter movies. But that movie actually did a decent job of showing both sides, because that wasn't a real event, but it was a bombing in Saudi Arabia. Huh. And they kind of give both sides of why they do this kind of shit. Not like completely, but they explain. But it was fair. It wasn't like a completely let's go kill them because they're evil kind of the American Sniper style of war movie. It tried to make a statement about it at least, but that's my problem. He's kind of getting away from trying to make statements and just kind of USA type shit now. Like even from Lone Survivor, I remember reading and people were like, "Oh, it didn't really happen that way." But then, like, it's the kind of thing where it's like you don't want to attack a soldier who said this is how it happened,
right?
And this again, like this too, you can't go and say, "All right, I'm not, I don't care about these people that died in Boston." It's you pay respect to their story, but you just there's a way that. Actually, I tweeted this out a couple weeks ago when I first saw the trailer. There's the movie coming out next month. It's loosely based on the Aurora shooting. Where they shot out the I think it's called Dark Knight, because it was where they shot up the Colorado theater during the movie Dark Knight.
Yeah, when for talking or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not it's not based. They don't say based on a true story. They don't but it's just kind of it's like the wink and a nod that this is what this is about, and it just seems like it's a different way to tell these kind of stories, and it looks like it focuses on 4 or 5 people that are going to the theater that night, and you don't know from the trailer, at least you don't know who is the one that does the shooting. But we all know what that movie's about, but it's not blatantly, and those kind of movies you can take a little more poetic license instead of saying, all right, this is about Patriots Day, this is about which you all saw in the news that was everything that was on TV for a week.
Right.
It's not a whole lot we don't know about these things. So if you're just going to tell a straightforward this is what happened movie, and not kind of any kind of behind the scenes, like with Deepwater Horizon, we all kind of saw the explosion, we saw all that stuff. If you want to tell me a story about everything that happened behind the scenes and all the testing failures and that stuff, that's the movie that people need to see. But to just a retelling of a story we saw in the news, that's why these movies aren't doing as well.
I don't think there's a big line of people around the block to relive things that just happened. I'm with you. I think that's exactly right. Go ahead.
I don't know. What the next? There really hasn't been a successful 9/11 movie. They tried it in 1993, but people didn't really flock to that one.
They didn't flock to Oliver Stone's either.
No,
I can't even remember what that's called. What was Oliver Stone's 9/11 movie?
They didn't even flock to the W movie.
No, they didn't.
Or Snowden.
World Trade Center. Okay.
Oh,
yeah, you're right. Look at that. I mean, it was Alexander, World Trade Center, W. Wow. Just 3 kind of, yeah. And then, you're right, Snowden after that.
And again, Snowden is the same thing. Mm-hmm. It just happened, these last 2 or 3 years. I mean, not as many people know about that because not people, read the details of things. But again, it's like these recent, we're not letting, time, pass before we make these things.
And some, I mean, the story's not even written for Snowden yet. I mean, it's not over. We don't know what the outcome's going to be. at the end.
I mean, look at the best history movies we have are like Civil War movies, or
right, when you can take a step back and see the whole thing and the ramifications, the repercussions of it. I agree.
Vietnam movies got good, and if you did a Vietnam movie in the '70s, it just wouldn't have been as good as seeing it in the '90s or 2000s.
Yeah.
Even like they've tried a few Iraq movies with Jarhead was the Desert Storm Iraq movie, and that that was a little better because that was not as we weren't as watching the news, I guess, back then. But there hasn't to do another American Sniper was an Iraq, basically a war that just happened movie, and that did well. But that was Bradley Cooper and Clint Eastwood.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to. Yeah, it's not exactly Peter Berg and Marky Mark. Yeah.
Or Bay and John, the guy from The Office.
Yeah. Right. Well, okay. Aside from Apocalypse Now, I agree with you. But about Vietnam movies in the '70s, I guess.
That came out when?
'79. Apocalypse Now was '79.
Well, that's still.
It still had some distance.
Years, maybe.
Yeah. It still had some distance. I think we killed it pretty well. Is there anything else you want to talk about as far as that movie goes?
I think we hit it all.
I think so. We do have to. I want to bring up the initial point I brought up. There's no apostrophe in Patriots Day.
Ah, is that what it is?
I guess so. It doesn't belong to any patriot.
Also, did you notice? I guess it was just part of the race, but there was a lot of ad placement at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit to say, if you're telling. This isn't Transformers. I didn't need to see Mark Wahlberg crack open a Budweiser or work out on his little bike downstairs wearing all his Under Armour gear.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
And then right after the bombing, this was just an odd scene. After the bombing, it's all chaos. He's running around, and he goes into a bar and takes a swig of Jameson.
Isn't that what you Irish people do?
But it's just like, I need a drink type shit. It's like, all right, this is, there's a real tragedy going on. I don't think you need to stop right now and have a shot. But it was just another one of those scenes where it's like, oh, look how hard Mark Wahlberg's life is right now.
Right. Right. But as long as you didn't do Protestant whiskey, it's okay, right? No Bushmill or anything like that.
Oh, Bushmills is Irish.
Oh, is it? I thought it was. Wasn't that Protestant or no? Is there Protestant Catholic? I thought Jameson was Catholic and Bushnell was.
That could be it.
I think that was. I'm not sure. I don't know about all that stuff. All right, Martin. That's it. I got nothing else. I think.
Yeah, hopefully we're gonna get Dan back from
a shore leave.
From swaddling and stuff. Next Tuesday is actually the day that the Oscar nominations are announced, so I'm sure we'll touch on that.
Yeah, maybe we'll just do an Oscar-centric.
Yeah,
episode.
still got to see.
Yeah, we can get some other people in here to discuss our nominations.
Yeah, I still got to see a bunch of these movies. Manchester by the Sea, still got to see this. It's weird. These movies are not. Hope they start to get more available theater-wise as the nomination.
You're right. Next Tuesday's when they start to pick up steam.
Hard to find Manchester by the Sea anywhere, and I'm in New York area.
Yeah.
And Moonlight, I can't really find Lion. These are the movies that are going to be probably nominated Best Picture-wise, along with La La Land.
Deadpool.
I was probably hidden figures at this point will get nominated.
Yeah.
And Deadpool, it's interesting. It's getting a lot of it got the producer award, and it got a couple of Golden Globe Award nominees. So that's the interest. If if they go 10, as they almost never do, might throw Deadpool in there. But they could get a screenplay award nomination too.
So the screenplay awards are always more prestigious than Best Picture. Come on now. The better movies like Pulp Fiction win screenplay. Forrest Gump wins Best Picture.
Well, there's almost no. Then we also wanted to do me and Dan talked about this before he lost a gallbladder. But we talked about ranking the best Oscar pictures
of all time.
Yeah, or like he mentioned 25 years because we'd be here all day.
Yeah, that's ambitious. All right, maybe when we get Dan back, we can jump on something like that.
Yeah, so hopefully Dan's doing well. Hopefully, his pictures on Facebook are all adorable. So, and follow us again, of course, on Twitter at Movie Stuff Show.
Marty works day and night.
breaking stories that other people already broke. Like this video, we're up to, or almost got to 200 subscribers. So if you can share this with somebody and get them to subscribe.
Yes. Your best friends or your worst enemies, depending on how you like the episode.
Either way.
Yeah, doesn't matter to me. That's pretty much it. I really didn't think this episode was going to go 56 minutes. I thought there's no chance in hell.
I mean, there were some parts of this movie that you can just talk about if you want to, because it deals with so many, American things. So.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, I thought this was going to do better. So I was surprised when we woke up on Sunday. It was like sixth place, behind Sing in its sixth week, and Rogue One in its seventh week and everything like that. But thought it would be a good topic.
Yeah, it was a good topic. Alrighty, that's all I got. You got anything?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Well, you have a good night. Everybody out there in YouTube land, you have a good night too. Talk to you later.